Hey everyone! My guest today is a far better than average physical therapist and YouTuber. His channel is growing quickly on the strength of his informative, thoughtful advice for runners, and we really run pretty deep in this conversation. We talk about the best ways for runners to keep healthy, how to diagnose pain, and how to bounce back from injury. We touch on the effect of the pandemic on his PT practice and get into the details of his alter ego on a second YouTube channel. So let's get into it with the average running PT, Justin Thompson. Hi there, everyone. My guest today is a far better than average physical therapist and YouTuber. His channel is growing quickly on the strength of his amazing content and advice for runners. I can't wait to start this conversation, so let's get right into it with your average running PT, Justin Thompson. Thank you for being here today, Justin. It's great to have you.
It's good to be on with you today, Paul. I'm excited.
Yeah, I really am. I've been watching your channel just explode, and I really mean it. Just your content is just great, and I'm such a fan of your delivery. I like the down to earth, positive approach that you bring to your channel, and it's a thrill just to get to sit down and kind of pick your brain and hopefully get you to share a little bit more of who you are with my subscribers.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that. I'm really, I enjoy being able to educate in, like you said, kind of hopefully a down to earth and not such a formal way. So just kind of sit in front of a camera. I don't always script things out completely, so it's kind of just speaking out of my head. And I think a lot of people like that conversational nature of it. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the channel and about any other questions that you have that you want me to kind of tell your audience about as well.
Awesome, I appreciate it. Just to jump right in, I'm just curious about your athletic background. So, go back as far as you want to, skip through whatever you think is relevant.
Yeah. So it really starts back when I was 4 years old, when my parents threw me into soccer, not having any idea what in the world soccer really even was. Um, you know, I'm 32 years old now, so back then, that's been 28 years ago that they stuck me into soccer,
Gotcha.
and that at that time it wasn't a big sport in the U.S. So and it was kind of like my dad took me, and my mom was like, "What are you doing? Why are you taking Why are you taking him to play this game? He's going to be a football player." And, and as you can see, I'm not exactly built like a football player. At least maybe I might have been a quarterback or something. I don't know. But started then, and that really built the entire backbone of my athletic history. I
Okay.
ended up playing soccer from 4 years old all the way through college. I played in college.
Wow.
I was I was the Gatorade Player of the Year in high school from my state,
Ah,
which was Arkansas, so it was a small state. Wasn't a huge thing, but still, that really built my entire athletic background.
gotcha.
I always liked running though. I was that kid that in kindergarten, first grade, whatever, they did the morning mile or whatever, presidential fitness test, things like that. I was leading the class, and definitely in the top percentile in that kind of
Okay.
stuff. Um, I remember though in kindergarten and first grade, there was this girl that would beat me in the mile. A
Okay.
girl would beat me in the mile. I was always so mad. I was always second place, but she would beat me. I was so mad. But anyway, I'll never let that go, I guess. But you know, I started running, more competitively, I guess, would be in junior high. Seventh and eighth grade, I ran track.
Okay.
I was more of like an 800-meter runner.
Gotcha.
I had a little bit of endurance, but a lot more speed because of all the soccer that I had played up until that point.
Gotcha.
Um, Seventh and eighth grade did that. Ninth grade started running cross country. Um, so I started running cross country in ninth grade. So I was a freshman in high school, and that was somewhat reluctantly. My high school cross country coach kept telling me over and over again. He would see me at church. We went to church together, and he would tell me, "You need to come out for the team. You need to come out for the team. You're going to be a good runner." And I was built kind of like a runner.
Okay.
I was thin and lanky and all that kind of stuff. I've put on more muscle since then, so I looked more like a runner then. But he kept pushing me to come out for the team. So actually, it wasn't until halfway into that cross country season that I gave in and was like, all right, fine, I'll come run.
Okay.
I ran like one practice, which was like 5 miles.
Wow.
And I didn't make the full 5 miles, but that was the run for that day at practice. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm done on day one. But we ended up going to our first to the meet that week. We had a meet that week, and I was freaking out. I've never done this before, and so went to that meet, ran like I remember the time, 22 minutes and 22 seconds. Had
Wow.
to walk one time during the race, but I was done. Like I had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just kind of had this natural athletic potential that at least carried me to a 22-minute and 22-second PR.
And that's for a 5K?
For 5K.
Just to come out of the box with a 22-minute 5K, that's pretty amazing.
Like I said, I had a little bit of endurance and a lot of speed. So, I shot out and I ran probably that first mile. I think I ran that first mile in like 5:45.
Wow.
And then I was gassed the rest of the way. So,
Gotcha.
but anyway, ended up running, sub 20 minutes for the last meet of that year. So I got better.
Wow.
And then I was hooked. I loved it. I loved the team atmosphere. Cross country, there's nothing like it. I played on basketball teams, soccer teams, all teams. There's nothing like a cross country team.
Yeah.
So much fun. And I was just hooked. So came back, ran all 4 years, ended up setting an 18:22 PR.
Good for you.
Which is still my PR to this day. But that's my history with running. The thing is, I never figured out how to actually pace myself. I still would always go out and run like a sub 6 mile when I really shouldn't have.
I gotcha.
But anyway, and then after college, actually in the middle of college, I decided it was during my off season for soccer in college, I decided to run a half marathon, my first half marathon.
Gotcha.
And I didn't know what I was getting into there. My longest run was a 9-mile run.
Okay.
Which, that's not bad.
No, not at all.
But then when I got done with that run, I think I had soccer practice the next day.
Oh.
And I wasn't ready for this hilly half marathon.
Okay.
I about died the next day. I couldn't even walk up the stairs. It was rough. It was rough.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. So, and then I've run a couple of other half marathons since then, but that still remains my best half marathon. Was my first one.
Wow.
Even though I've thought that I've trained well for these other 2 that I've done. Mm-hmm. But again, remember I said I can't pace myself? Yeah, that happened.
Same story, huh?
Same thing for the half marathon. That one half marathon I did where I did well, that was the one time I paced myself because I knew if I didn't, I was not making it to the end of this thing.
I gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of my athletic background. I continued to play some soccer just recreationally and stuff like that since college, and then running off and on. Joined a running club 2 years ago. with my running coach, Enoch Nadler, who was number 24, I think, in the U.S. Olympic marathon trials.
Wow.
He finished 24th, so he's a heck of a runner himself.
Yeah.
But I've always considered myself a pretty average runner, just because 1822 is not bad, but it's not winning any meets or anything like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, I'd be happy with it. My PR, I've only run one 5K in my life. Just to put it out there, I'm 51 years old,
uh
and I ran my first and so far only 5K in March of 2019, and I ran an 1836.
okay,
So I'd be perfectly happy with an 1822. I'll tell
there
you
you go.
what.
There you go. Yeah, I'd love to get back into that sub 19 shape. My goal as a high schooler was to be able to break 18. If I were to ever get to that point, and I'm 32, so I've still got some time to improve and all that stuff.
Yeah, you've got some good years ahead of you.
Yeah, I ran a 1936 earlier this year,
Okay.
solo, pandemic style solo on a
Yep.
track.
Yep.
So I know that there's still some speed and some stuff that I can do there. I just need to still work on pacing myself.
Yeah, gotcha. So that kind of leads me actually perfectly into my next question, because we covered your athletic background. That just naturally led us into how you started running and where you are today. But yeah, just give everybody just a little insight into what your training looks like now. Do you have like a formal training schedule? Does it change from week to week, from season to season? Yeah, just talk about all of that.
Yeah, it's interesting. My running ever since I graduated from college has been, I'll do a little bit of a plan or something for 6 or 8 weeks, and then I'll stop. And then I'll do something else again a few months later, and then I'll stop. And consistency has been lacking significantly for me when it comes to running. And so what I've been trying to work on over the last year, and especially over the last 4 months, is being consistent with my
Gotcha.
training. And
Gotcha.
so I started, and it started with getting my first GPS watch,
Hey, good for you.
which was Black Friday last year. Got my first GPS watch, and then realized that when I went out to run, and I know that these heart rate monitors aren't super accurate, but they give you something to look at.
Yeah.
I realized that, holy cow, my endurance is terrible. My heart rate is way too high. It should not be here. And that started me down this path of working on math method and math training.
Okay. I was wondering what led you into that, and okay,
Yeah,
there it is.
it started with this. It started with that, and that's kind of carried me throughout this past year of working on long or slow, easy running, and then maybe dropping one speed day in a week.
Gotcha.
So what that's allowed me to do, though, is stay a lot more consistent, because I'm a lot more motivated to go out the next day, because I don't feel like I'm totally gassed
Yeah.
from every day. And when I was in high school, I would run for my easy days. I would run 7:30 per mile for an 8-mile run,
Mm-hmm.
when I really had no business doing that, because I would suffer on some of the harder workouts,
Yeah.
and suffer in races as well. So
Gotcha.
so it's one of those things that I got this heart rate monitor on my wrist, and it's helped me to be more consistent, because I'm not just driving myself into the ground all the time.
Gotcha. That's
And
a
so
great point.
yeah, and so now I'm able to run anywhere between 4 and 6 days a week. Usually if it's 4 days, it's because it's a down week.
Gotcha.
I can easily go and run 6 days a week and still feel energized and feel good. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now, is 6 days a week with 1 day a week of speed.
Gotcha. Now, do you set parameters for yourself as far as like weekly mileage, or do you just let that, as long as you're out there 4 to 6 days a week, you're happy, or do you worry about mileage at all?
Initially, I was kind of going on time and just trying to build up. From I think I started at running 20 minutes and then built up to now I can do an hour and a half long run.
Right.
So, I've just been kind of doing that. And then wherever my mileage kind of lands, which right now it's landing me somewhere in the range of 25 to 30 miles a week.
Gotcha.
I'd like to get it to the 35 to 40 range if I can. I've never done that kind of mileage before, but I think with, I'm in no hurry to get there. That's the thing. I'm really not in any hurry because now I'm trying to make goals that are not just, 3 months from now, I want to enter this race and I want to do the best I can.
Yep.
Now I'm looking ahead like a year or 2 years or 3 years ahead and like, okay, what could I do for a half marathon 3 years from now?
Okay.
Um,
That's great that you're thinking in such long-term windows.
and I know that's hard for people and it's hard for me. It's tough for me to do, but kind of feeling how I feel and, realizing that when I do that, I have a lot more energy and I'm able to be more consistent, and then my performances actually end up going quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been training, through the summer here in Florida. It's blazing hot.
Yeah, I'm in North Carolina, so I get a taste of that myself.
Yeah. So I'm excited for a little bit of cooler weather. This morning it was 66 degrees when I went out to run in the morning. I was super stoked about that. I'm really excited for when that cooler weather comes because I want to see what running this slow mileage stuff through the summer, kind of what that results in whenever I run a hard 5K come October 31st. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's amazing because I'm going through exactly the same thing. It's like when summer is over here, it's like free speed. It's like without any extra effort, you're suddenly moving 20 seconds faster per mile.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
like a gift.
Yeah, like I said, I've been doing the MAF stuff, maffetone training stuff, and when I first started, my maffetone training, heart rate that I stay under was making it to where I had to run like 11 and a half, 12-minute miles.
Gotcha.
Which was painfully slow for me. And then even during the summer, during the hot, humid months, I got to where I was down to about 9:30, 9:45 per mile at the same heart rate.
That's
so it's
amazing.
working. That's good to know. But then when I ran this morning, I went and did, my first like 2 miles were at like 9:22, and my heart rate was 10 beats below what I normally run at. So like I said, 66 degrees, I step outside and I'm ready to fly. I had to kind of hold myself back to make sure I wasn't going to overdo it.
I got you.
But yeah, I'm excited about that cooler weather.
Yeah. It's just so great. It's funny because I'm originally from up north myself, Northeast, and winter up there. I'm sure plenty of people, but that's the time of year they absolutely dread. And being down here, it's like I just can't wait for winter.
You're looking for it, yeah.
It's funny. So cool. I think we've kind of just naturally covered. I was going to ask you a pointed question about what motivates you to run now, but I think we've kind of gotten there.
I can
something else you wanted to cover.
Yeah, I can probably add a little more to that because, I've got a little bit of a history with. I had skin cancer 4 years ago. I had melanoma. I had to have it removed. It wasn't a huge deal. I didn't have to go through a lot of treatment. I just had to have it cut out.
Okay.
But that was a scary thing. And, you live in Florida, it's the sunshine state, and, you get a little depressed when suddenly you're not able to go out in the sun as much as you're used to.
Yeah.
Because they say that, you know, if you get melanoma once, you're significantly more likely to get it again if you spend too much time out in the sun. So that was a big hit to me. I was always outside. I was always running. And so now, you know, I don't do a lot of running vlog stuff or anything like that because most of my runs are done in the dark before the sun ever comes up.
Gotcha.
And so it's just, that's the reason I run is because I always wanted to, you know, I always want to stay in shape. Obviously, I'm a physical therapist. I can't be a healthcare provider and be looking overweight or you know, poor health.
Yeah.
Right. But I did get kind of depressed about, you know, when I had going outside and playing sports kind of ripped away from me all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That was hard to take.
I would imagine.
So, you know, now I get up early because I know that I still can. And, you know, it's something I have to do it for my own sanity as well. You know, I've always been an athlete, and
Yeah.
I've always been an athlete, and to not do that would be worse than, you know, not. So
Absolutely.
I had to find something that I could do pretty much by myself because I'm going outside in the dark. So not many people are going to play soccer with me early in the morning when it's dark, or basketball or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of why I run. It's because I know that I need to stay healthy, but this is the way that I can do that and kind of do it safely for me.
Yeah, I think that's such an inspirational little story you just told there. I mean, I love the fact that you found something, you know, that can really, you know, that kind of news just, you know, that can take the wind out of your sails in a huge way. And the fact that you turned that around and turned it into something that's not only positive for you, but that you've even gone so many steps further rather than just instead of just limiting that change that you brought to yourself of motivating yourself to find a way to still be physically active. I love the fact, and the next few questions are going to be about this, that you didn't just limit that change in your life to yourself. You found a way now to share these new motivations with the world, not just as a YouTuber, but as a physical therapist. And I'd love to hear, I'd love to take it to the next question now, what got you interested? What was the spark to become the physical therapist in the first place?
Yeah. Like we've talked about, I was an athlete all my life. I loved the idea of how the body moved, and, you know, what the human body was capable of. And then, you know, sometimes things get in the way of the body doing what it's supposed to do. Sometimes we overdo something and something stops working right in the body. And to be able to do things with my hands, with exercise, with you know, things like that to help heal and improve the body's capacity to do the things that it was meant to do. That's kind of what drew me to PT.
Okay.
And, you know, it's something that I wish I could just go and treat patients all day and then be done, and, you know, not be on my computer doing the documentation. That stuff drives me nuts. So, you know, I'm trying to find other ways that I can use my knowledge as a physical therapist to help people. And, you know, YouTube is a massive platform. A lot of people on it. I mean, is there something in it for me? Absolutely. You know, everybody that's on YouTube and trying to grow, obviously they want to be able to monetize that in some way. but really, I've always had kind of a gift for teaching and making something that's semi-complex into easy to understand.
Yeah, gotcha.
And that's what I love, is taking semi-complex or complex concepts and breaking it down in a way that somebody that doesn't have my education, that they could still understand it.
Gotcha. And let me just interject here, because what you just said, that's exactly the way I perceive your channel. I think you just nailed it. Like, I think that's why you're growing so fast. I think that's why you're so successful right out of the gate, is because that's exactly what your channel does for me. I'm always out there trying to learn. I aspire to get my coaching certification very soon. But that's what I've been doing. I've been killing time, just kind of growing my YouTube channel while I wait for the opportunity to get that certification.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just such a sponge. I'm always out there looking for people, the best people, to just fill this head with knowledge that when it comes to running and all related things, because I can't get enough of that stuff.
Yeah.
And your channel, it's funny because I think we started probably somewhere right around the same time.
Yeah.
And I became aware of you very quickly. And it's just been, your channel just keeps getting better. Let me just put it that way and keep it simple.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. Every now and then I get, some idea that if I can improve the channel in some way, whether it's by adding on product reviews or by doing some specific kind of a talk, whether it's educational or sharing. I think the video I put out today was sharing what other people say are their top tips for to become a better runner. That was the video I put out today. I kind of compiled, I made one of those myself a couple of weeks ago, and then people put in their ideas as well, and so I just took them, compiled them, and I want to share that with people as well. So yeah, in any way that I can kind of continue to improve the production value of it, like we talked before we came on here about the lighting or whatever, I want it to at least look semi-appealing when people come on the channel, not because the looks matter that much, but just because, for my own sake, I've been kind of a visually aesthetic person all my life. I like to do photography and things of that sort. So the production value of it is important to me, and I think a lot of someone's floating around. I think a lot of the audience, likes to see that effort's been put into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. As much as people say, don't judge the book by its cover, nonetheless.
They do. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not one to speak here. I am glowing pink with my incredible lighting in this room. Let's see. Just to kind of get into, I think you kind of covered your motivations for starting up on YouTube very well. But to kind of start shifting gears a little bit into the more PT side of things. I am curious. What is your? Let me just kind of preempt this whole section of questions. I would love to dig deep into some very specific areas, but I want to give my audience sort of. I want to stick with fairly general questions because I want to give them just kind of an overview of the whole world of physical therapy and what it offers to a runner. So to get started, if a runner's new and they want to avoid having to visit a physical therapist, what are your top recommendations for how to stay healthy in the first place?
It's funny, that's what my entire channel is really kind of built around. Is staying healthy. whether you're a beginner or whether you're experienced or whatever, it's average running PT, but I think that even experienced or elite runners can gain something from it, just in the sense that being honest with yourself and your capabilities
Mhm.
is really, really important. And I know this from experience because I think I mentioned already that when I was in high school, I would run an easy run at about 7:30 per mile,
Mhm.
when I probably should have been running those at about 8.5 or 9 minutes a mile.
Gotcha.
Um, and the whole thing with, even though it feels like it's an easy run and it feels like I can do this, this isn't a big deal. What is the big deal? The big deal is cumulative stress. And that's the thing, people think of how many miles are you running? Okay, but what are the intensity of those miles that you're running? And it's important to understand that for somebody that's new or somebody that likes to push themselves every day,
Mhm.
that stress accumulates. And if you don't allow time for recovery, whether that's really slow jogging or total rest, then the body will eventually break down in some way.
Yeah.
It'll break down mentally, it'll break down, physiologically, it'll break down physically. And I want to help people prevent that. And that's really what my channel is built around. And that's why I started doing maffetone method myself, is because I had that tendency to push myself. I was a college athlete. You push yourself. You hear no pain, no gain. That's the way it is, right? But I've kind of shifted that to, instead of no pain, no gain, no pain, no pain.
Yeah.
Period. And, for me, doing heart rate based training,
Mhm.
forces you to stay honest with yourself about whether you're doing too much or not.
Gotcha.
I mean, I get to the end of my runs where I'm doing math method, and I'm like, I barely felt like I did anything. I really barely feel like I got a workout in.
Gotcha.
But if I do that day after day after day after day, the accumulation of that low level stuff will still build on itself slowly, but it'll build over time, and eventually you're going to become significantly stronger. And like I said earlier, I started my math training at somewhere around 11.5, 12 minutes a mile. I kept my heart rate the same, and
Mhm.
it gradually got faster and faster and faster. So for those that are just getting started, or those that don't want to come and see me in my office, be patient, be honest with yourself, and just allow fitness to come to you rather than you trying to chase after it.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way of saying it. I always just kind of, my hacky way of trying to get that across to people whenever I'm asked is think long.
Yeah.
Don't try to be where you want to be in 2 weeks, because it's not going to happen. If you try to get there fast, you're just going to end up at the PT.
Yeah. And I
If you
mentioned
think,
that, yeah, and I mentioned that earlier, right? I said, when I first joined the running club that I'm a part of right now, this was about 2 years ago. I hadn't had this mind frame shift yet. And so I went into it on zero training and said, I told the coach, I said, I want to be able to run a sub 130 half marathon, and I want to do it in 3 months. And, he's the eternal optimist. So he was like, all right, let's do it. So, but he didn't realize how undertrained I was at that point.
okay,
So I ended up hurting myself. I ended up barely getting to that race, healthy.
uh-huh.
And then after that, I burned out, and I didn't run for a couple of months.
Yeah,
And so I had the mental breakdown, I had the physical going on, and it wasn't worth it for me. especially as I was rounding into my 30s. And then that's when my mind frame kind of shifted. I got the heart rate monitor and I thought, what do I want to be able to achieve, not 3 months from now, but by the time I'm 35 years old.
Yeah.
So having that mind frame shift, and I think that would be the thing that I would tell new runners as well. You can't be gung-ho. It's a shift that has to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
That really, it's hard to get that through people's head.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I'm not even going to pretend to speak for anybody else, though I have seen other runners unfortunately suffer from that, the former mindset that you described. And I've been running now. I didn't pick up running until I was 42 years old, so 9 years now. And the first 5 years of my running was just all about basically trying to ignore the massive amounts of pain that I was accumulating and trying to push ahead anyway. Yeah. And it was only after I had my first, I went to a marathon and DNF'd it. The first time I crossed the finish line and never crossed, what did I just say? I crossed the start line and never crossed the finish line. And that's when I learned the lesson that you just described.
Yeah.
But okay, I think that leads perfectly into my next question, just to keep things moving. If a runner is experiencing discomfort, or they may even describe it as pain, what's the first thing you recommend they do?
Depends on the severity. And, if we're talking about pain, is it a dull ache? Is it a sharp pain? Is it affecting their gait pattern? All of those things kind of have to weigh into it. Whenever I have an athlete that I am trying to rehabilitate, mm-hmm. Typically there's going to be a little bit of discomfort if they have an injury already and they're trying to come back from it. So I'll keep them within a pain range, usually 3 out of 10 or less.
Okay.
And as long as it's not affecting their gait. If it starts affecting your running, you start limping in any way, you start favoring anything, then you're done.
Gotcha.
If you're brand new and you're just unsure, get it checked out.
Okay.
It's hard to give hard and fast rules, especially for people who have a high pain tolerance.
Yeah.
Well, there's the guys that may have played football at one point in their time, and they have the no pain no gain mentality, and for them, a 3 out of 10 on the pain scale is 7 or 8 out of 10 to you and me. Yeah. And they're just good at masking it because that's what their coach told them to do when they were back in high school. Gotcha. Or they would get benched otherwise. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to running, and if you want to do it for a long time, you have to be honest. You have to listen to what your body's telling you. And if it's telling you something's wrong, then something's wrong, and you shouldn't ignore it. Yeah. I know that's not like hard and fast rules, and it's hard to give that. But basically my rule is if it's causing you enough discomfort that you're having to either limp or you're having to take some sort of pain-killing medication, ibuprofen, whatever, mm-hmm. You need to get it checked out.
I'm going to back up every word you said because I've been the bad boy and done all of those things. And I'll just admit, for the sake of everybody watching, you're not going to win that little contest with yourself. You're going to eventually burn out. You're eventually going to be forced to stop. So the sooner you go into rehab and give your body the rest it needs and see a professional, the sooner you will be better off.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let me ask you, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of reassure runners who are injured, because in my experience, when you are sidelined from injury as a runner, it's not just a physical injury. For me, it's such a mental and emotional blow to not be out there. Talk a little bit about the best ways to deal with all of that. Like, what are the best ways to get yourself back physically, and how do you tide yourself over mentally and emotionally?
Yeah. Usually when there's an injury, there's something that you can do that is beneficial for healing. There's usually something that you can do that's beneficial for keeping you mentally in the game or occupied. Because that's one of the biggest problems for runners is they're on the sideline. It's a mental thing for them because a lot of time that's their mental release.
Yep.
And so being able to find that something to direct that mental energy
Mm-hmm.
is really important. And for me, obviously I'm not a high level runner. I'm again, I'm average.
Yeah, I
So
think we all kind of fit into that. So I think you're I think we're all probably sharing our knowledge with the same kind of crowd. I mean, the elites have their own specialized team around them. So.
yeah. So they've got they're paid to figure all that out. So for us, we're not paid to do this. So we gotta find ways to occupy our brain and keep ourselves in it. So, if for me, my identity isn't necessarily in running. It's, I think a lot of people, they put their identity in their activity. Mm-hmm. And that's hard when that activity gets ripped away.
Yeah.
We already talked a little bit about me when I was diagnosed with skin cancer. My athletics got ripped away, and I spun into a little bit of a depression about that.
Yeah.
But once I realized that my identity wasn't necessarily as an athlete, I was an athlete. I was good at athletics, but it's not who I am. Mm-hmm. I think that's an important thing to realize for anybody that's not a professional. So, whether you can find a way to fill that mental void, by spending more time with your family or by doing some other hobby that you enjoy. For me, I enjoy doing photography. So whenever I went down, I focused a little bit on photography, and I had fun with that. So not putting all of your identity into one thing. It's like stocks and bonds, right? You diversify, and you're not at as big of a risk if that one thing goes away.
Yeah.
But as far as physically is concerned, usually there's some kind of exercise that you can do that even if it's a knee injury, doing some gentle cycling is probably going to be fine. For the most part. I don't want to say that 100% across the board. But in general, doing gentle movement is going to be good, or maybe just walking is going to be good. Which also gives you a chance to take a mental break if you have been doing this no pain, no gain kind of mentality. Give yourself that chance to take a mental break every now and then.
Yep.
sometimes there are some runners who are really good at it, and they can be like, oh, I'm injured, I can take a break now. Cool. I'm not that good at it, but people are like, oh, good, I can rest now.
Yeah, gotcha.
But finding something, there's always some exercise you can do, there's always some activity you can do to reframe it mentally and physically, so that when you do come back to running, you're fresh and you're ready to get back into it. And just knowing that when you do come back, you're starting from a lower place than where you were before.
Yeah, yeah.
That's another mistake a lot of people make. They say, I was doing this 2 months ago before I got injured, I should be able to do that again. No.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've learned that lesson too. I love listening to you talk because I'm going through the mental Rolodex of, oh yeah, I think I've made that mistake 3 times.
I think everybody's done that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Cool. So you touched on something when you were talking about when people are going through that sort of rehab process, or when they're down and they can't run at the moment, they should look for other parts of their lives that can occupy them as a way of coping. To widen that idea out, I want to ask you how you yourself balance running, YouTubing, your career, and family obligations. Because judging by your channel and your professional endeavors, you're doing a good job of it. So I'm kind of I'd like a window into that.
Yeah, part of I try and be as transparent as possible on my channel, but there's one aspect that I haven't been entirely transparent about, so I'll go ahead and do that here. I've actually been out of work since COVID hit.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that unfortunately kind of makes sense.
It's not something that that I've talked about yet.
Gotcha.
And so basically COVID hit. I started my channel in March, right after that.
Gotcha.
Because I had more time on my hands.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, we're not suffering financially. I mean, I can't go on like this forever, but
yeah,
it has allowed for 6 months of being able to grow this channel from 0 to, I think we mentioned it already, I crossed 1,000 subscribers today.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And congratulations to you. It's so well deserved.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of the balance, I don't know yet.
Okay. The very honest answer of you.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about running and your identity being in running, and some people can put their identity in their work too, and if they're out of work, then they can go into a tailspin, especially if their financial situation 100% relies on that job.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my wife and I have done okay to this point, and we're okay for the moment.
Okay. Glad to hear that.
Like I said, we can't go on like this forever. So, but it has allowed me to grow and build a channel, and it's allowed my wife and I to have a lot more fun and enjoy each other as well.
That's wonderful to hear.
So I've used it kind of similar to a runner being injured. Me getting knocked out of work has been a chance for a mental break from work, and a chance for me to reconnect a little bit better with my wife and as well. So and with my church, and with all the other things that maybe go on the back burner when you're at work for 8 or 10 hours a day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that you are practicing what you preach. It's great that, in these tough times, and they really are tough times. I know a lot of people who are struggling right now. And the fact that you have seen the value of the other portions of your life, I think is something that, once again, that I hope everybody who's watching this learns from that. You know, I think once again, you're a great example. I think you're a great guy. And, you know, I'm so glad that you're here. And because you come across on your channel, I don't mean to keep kind of like, you know, what do I want to say? I don't mean to keep sort of pumping things up artificially. But the reason I'm attracted to your channel, the reason that you know, you come across as a great guy is because you genuinely are. And the fact that you're sharing so much here is just a testament to that. You know, thank you. You know,
Yeah.
and I hope things turn around very quickly for you on the professional side.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've had fun doing doing the YouTube stuff, almost like a full-time YouTube kind of thing. Not really, but you know, when I do get back to work, I won't be posting 3 videos a week.
Yeah, gotcha. I gotcha.
Unfortunately, because you know, I would love to do it almost full-time if I could, or at least part-time. It'd be a lot of fun.
I think you're well on your way. In all truth, I think if we get the opportunity to speak in another 6 months, I think you're going to be in a very different place. I think, you know, just to speak frankly, I said this to Emily Heller too when I had an opportunity to speak to her. It's probably been 4 or 5 weeks since I had the opportunity to interview her, and
yeah, I watched that one. That's good.
oh, awesome. But I told her my predictions for her channel, and I'm so happy to see that as big as she was when I had the opportunity to speak with her, she is so much bigger. Her channel has grown so much in this short period, and I'm seeing this happening for you, and everybody. I'm putting my cards on the table. Justin and the Average PT channel is going to be big, so subscribe now. If you haven't already, get over there. Come back. You can come back to this video. Just pause it, open another tab, and go subscribe. This guy's amazing.
Appreciate it. Thank you
So, yeah, all right. I think we've already talked about your hobbies, your photography, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, we got some other stuff though too that I gotta mention it because during this time, not only have I started my channel, but my wife and I have started another YouTube channel together as well.
Wonderful.
Her brother introduced her to board games she's played board games a long time, but her brother was a board game fanatic.
Okay.
And he passed away from brain cancer 4 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
3 years ago, which was another reason that my cancer scare around that same time was just like about rocked our world, right? He had brain cancer, but he and Jody, my wife, connected really heavily over their board game passion.
Okay.
And in the last few months, my wife and I have decided to start a board game YouTube channel.
So you guys have a second channel that I'm going to be subscribing and loving.
We've been having a lot of fun with that. It's not, I mean, it's a smaller thing than my running channel, but it's fun for us. We enjoy it. It's something we can do together. Again, it's something that if I was working, it probably would never have started. So again, it was something where I had the opportunity to reconnect and do some things with her that has been a lot of fun. And so, awesome. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun for us to be able to do that. So that's another hobby of ours is
Gotcha.
Games and stuff like that. So we've got a collection of over 200 board games. I'm sitting here looking at one of our shelves right now.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. I didn't even know there were 200 board games, period.
Oh, you haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the board gaming world. It is quite crazy, and I've learned a lot over the last few years.
That's so cool. I tell you what, I'm literally, the second we're done with this and I have this file saved, I'll ask you before we go about all the different ways that people can get in contact with you and find you online. So save that for now.
Absolutely.
But I will be following that link immediately, I promise you. That's so cool. All right, Justin, we're getting into the last of the questions now, but I just kind of wanted to ask you, going back to the running thing, how has running changed your life for the better?
Oh man, obviously it's health-wise, it's something that anybody can do, and you don't need a basketball or a soccer ball or a certain field to play on. It's you step outside your door and you go, and it's an easy way to stay healthy and stay fit. So fitness and health is one big aspect. It's also a mental release for me. Just like many other runners, it helps me get out a lot of mental energy that just bounces around in there if I let it. It's helped me make connections with people in my community, especially with the running club that I run with. I'm a very introverted person, and so making connections with people, it can be kind of hard for me. I may put on a good show on camera or something like that, but when it comes to connecting with people, I need some sort of common ground to make those connections, and being able to join the running club and do that has been a great way for me to do that. Yeah, I mean, also it's a chance for me to continue learning about what am I actually capable of doing. You don't ever want to really just kind of get stagnant in anything that you're doing, but for me and fitness or whatever, I keep challenging myself in different ways. And running, there's so many different ways that you can challenge yourself with running. There's different race distances. You shoot for time goals. You run. How slow can you run? Whatever. That's how I felt whenever I started math training. How slow can I actually run? There's just so many ways to challenge yourself, and it's always able to stay fresh and that never get boring to me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
So, all right, that leads me perfectly into this next question. What is, if you can pinpoint it, you can either go with like 1 point, or if there's a whole maelstrom of pieces of advice you'd like to share, I'm hoping you can at least filter out your top favorite bits of advice for either runners or YouTubers or both.
For runners, I could say this about YouTube as well, to be honest. Be patient. Put in the work, but be patient.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as I say that, and I'm saying it thinking about running, it was kind of the same for YouTube.
Yeah.
It was the same for me trying to build my private practice business that I was doing before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while to build up, and then it got rolling for a little while. I got a few awards for being a good therapist and all this stuff. But patience is so important. Put in the work, but be patient and allowing it to come. Especially when it comes to like your fitness. And YouTube is one of those things where I'm starting to realize this now, but like the snowball effect, it happens, and it happens with running too. So, you know, like we said before we started recording, it took you 4 months to get to 100 subscribers. It took me 3 months to get to 100 subscribers. That's a very that's a very long time when you just get started and it feels like nothing's happening. You're like, ah.
Yeah.
But then, you know, things start to catch hold, and, you know, I gained 100 subscribers in like 3 or 4 days the other day.
Yeah.
So now things are rolling, and, you know, you gain momentum. So as long as you don't push yourself too hard too soon. That's why I say be patient. If you push yourself too hard too soon, you're gonna block your momentum, and you're gonna start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that would be probably my biggest piece of advice for both runners and YouTubers would be work hard but be patient.
Brilliant, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. That's the first time I've heard it said like that, where you just made a perfect parallel between those two worlds. And it's just, you know, having experienced both of those worlds myself, you're spot on. You're absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So, sir, I want to give you the opportunity to share all the different ways that people can find you online and get in touch with you. Talk about both YouTube channels, please, and any other social media that you have out there.
Okay.
I will share everything that you say in the description below, so don't worry about that. But yeah, please just give everybody an idea of where you are.
Yeah. So on YouTube, obviously, is youtube.com/AverageRunningPT, or just search for AverageRunningPT. And I want to clear up the name of my channel a little bit. Some people think, well, he's an average PT. At the beginning of every video, I make sure that I make it clear what it really means. It means that I help the average runner achieve their own personal elite status. So, you know, I like to kind of clear that up a little bit, because I think when people first see it, they're like, it's just an average running PT. How's this guy going to help me? But I'll just put that out there. So Average Running PT on YouTube, AVG Running PT on Instagram. I'm not very good at Instagram. You would think it would be easier than YouTube, but for me, I don't know why. I have a harder time posting stuff on Instagram than I do on YouTube.
It's a different beast.
And then I have a Twitter handle, but I don't use it, so I don't even know what it is.
Okay.
Let's see. Anything else as far as that goes? If anybody has any questions or anything like that for me, they can DM me on Instagram. I do check the DMs for sure.
Okay.
And then you mentioned our board game channel that my wife and I are doing together. It's called Board Game Perspective.
Okay.
So go search on YouTube for Board Game Perspective, and we do board game how to play videos, and in each of those videos we do a little kind of like cinematic sequence of kind of the components of the games and all this kind of stuff. So we have a lot of fun with that. That channel is actually more work than this one. This one is. You'll see if you go and watch some of the videos, the editing that kind of goes into that.
Gotcha.
So we're on Board Game Perspective on YouTube, and also Board Game Perspective on Instagram as well.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Cool. I got to tell you one thing. The fact that you guys are doing sort of instructional videos for those board games, my wife is going to love you guys. When it comes to reading those instructions, I swear to God, we open a box to play a game, and the first thing that happens is those instructions get chucked, because she is not about reading the rules. She's about just, let's dive in and figure it out.
Okay, so my wife is like, that's what she lives to do, is read those rules. And I swear, if I had to do that, I would No way. No way. I'm done with school. I'm done with this is like school to me. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that at all. So she loves that though. And then being able to translate that over into a very detailed how to play video is something that she really loves doing. And then, you know, me with my photography kind of hobby and videography, I get to put together this little cinematic sequence as well. So it's something that's fun for us to do for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And Justin, thank you for being here. I knew this was going to be a fun and interesting conversation. It went deeper, and it was just more enriching than I really ever thought it was going to be. Thank you for being here. It was wonderful, and all the best of luck to you going forward in everything you do. And you know, I don't think I really need to say this, but I know everybody's hoping that COVID will be a thing in the history books sooner rather than later. And, you know, everything you do is great. And thank you for being here. And it was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I really appreciate it. And, you know, I enjoy coming on and just chatting one-on-one with people. And I look forward to kind of seeing how your channel continues to grow. I know I've seen yours picking up a little bit of steam for sure. So I'm excited about that, and you'll be hitting that 1,000 mark sooner than you think. So
yeah, hopefully, you know, I'll just take it as it comes. I'm just enjoying the ride so far. So
there you go.
All right. Thank you, and have a great night, sir.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.